Welcome back to Made Up of Wires. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and you can too. If you want to know more about the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, go to soten.z.dev, where you can find more. My voice is a little hoarse this morning. Excuse me. And you'll see the progress we've made on several overlays. Overlays you can think of as game files, but they're more specifically pieces of the game that are loaded at various times when you're playing. So there, you'll find stages, you'll find weapons, you'll find bosses and other things like that. Excited that Mr. Mitty, I believe, yesterday pointed out that the library overlay was just added, which is super exciting. We had been looking at N01, and I'm going to see maybe what else is left there, because not quite done, but we're getting to around 90% there. And then yesterday at the beginning, I took a little time to look at some of the CD SDK functions, and I'm going to look at some of those as well and tell you about a problem that I'm having. And maybe somebody watching can help with this. I'm going to post it to Discord later as well. So I was working on CD BIOS functions, as one does in their free time, and I got to an odd printf that I can't seem to solve, and I'm very close on this. Changing the order of just about anything breaks this even more, and so I'm putting a call out to anybody who thinks they might be able to solve this. So the CD BIOS functions are lower level functions than the SDK exposes, but they're used by the SDK functions basically to call into the BIOS and do things directly with hardware. Most of these are pretty straightforward. This one is not overly complicated. I mentioned yesterday and before that the PlayStation is a single core, mostly not threaded system. There's nothing that prevents you from multi-threading. It's just that that's not the way that it's typically done. And so when you're waiting on something, you're waiting it on in a spin loop. And that's, for the most part, what this function is for. And you have timeouts and other things like that. Hey, Mr. Mitty, good to have you back. And so there are several of these functions that all follow the same pattern. So solving this one, I think, is the best minimal example. Where if this printf line is solved, this function is solved, and then 4 or 5 others can be solved as well. So let's look at what is happening specifically on this line. We're coming through in a infinite loop. As part of the infinite loop, we're checking for the timeout or not. If there was a timeout, basically then we're going to exit with -1. Why we don't return there with a -1, I don't know. Hey, Dig Down Deep. I'm going to start with maybe 1 or 2. I think I might look at the caller of this data sync function, since this is an internal function, and then we'll go back to, I could do library or outer wall, whatever anybody prefers. Post your comments and preferences in chat. So we have a few interesting things. This 2D80 struct is volatile, and so we need those reads to happen and happen in a particular order, and currently they are happening in the current order that we want. It's this A0 and V1, and these are the sync and ready arguments that go to those particular string placeholders. And then there's this other really odd string pointer. It gets set, I think it's for debugging, but it gets set by multiple functions, basically to tell what function you're currently in. And that gets printed in the first slot, and then some command gets printed in the second slot. what I wanted to do originally and how M2C decompiled this was to do all of these inline, and that makes a certain amount of sense to do them inline. But doing them inline just breaks things in a slightly different way. There's some other oddities here as well. This pointer to the command strings, for whatever reason, seems like it can't be used inline because it needs to be cached up here. However, the 2B48 arrays are cached up here without doing anything, as well as 2DBO is cached relatively early on as well. So yeah, if you want to look at CD data sync, if you're interested in BIOS functions, I'm stuck here, and let's go back to what I had when I started. I think I saved this accidentally. This is the closest that I've gotten. Actually, the other way was slightly closer. But yeah, that's where this is. Oh, the do while is what you know things are bad when you have an empty do while. I actually have this running in the Permuter as well. And let's see if Permuter has figured anything out. I have done Permuter talks in the past, and so if people want to know about the Permuter as well, so far it's given me mostly garbage. I think this might be the one that I looked at last night. So it's basically changing variables and adding new ones here and there. There's definitely a possibility that that's what's happening, but in this case, I'm not convinced. I haven't looked at some of the larger ones. I tend to go to the smaller Permuter diffs. There could be something in like the 400s, say 420, or some of the other ones that do have some valuable output. At this point, I probably run it too long to anything that is useful is probably lost. All different ways, though, it seems like, of changing how these printf args are loaded. Antropy Gravity Well, good to have you back. My scroller's not working. Dig Down Deep, good to have you. And Antoine, good to have you back. 2 days in a row. So I want to start with CD data sync, because that might be relevant to this problem that I'm currently having. And then we'll, like I said, if you want to see outer wall, there's a few functions left there. Otherwise, we can look at long library too. There's a lot of mapping that can be done in long library, and probably should be done before much else is done to make sure that we're not duplicating effort. And then we can look at that as well. So what I'm going to do is see if I believe this is CD data sync is the function. Nope. So I'm going to just look for data sync. Oh, underscore data sync. And CD data sync is just calling CD data sync. One interesting thing here, and this may or may not be relevant. CD data sync takes an argument. And in this implementation, it's not passing any argument at all. So let's look at that as well. It may implicitly be getting the argument from A0. But let's see what the assembly for that function looks like, and then so we're going to look at matchings, and if there's nothing there that's interesting, libcd sys, and we want cd data sync. And what I'm mostly interested in is A0 getting set? It's not. So one of two things could be happening. It's possible that CD data sync takes no argument, or CD data sync, the SDK version, does take an argument, but it's passed immediately to the internal BIOS function CD data sync, and so the argument's already in the correct slot or register. And it just implicitly works by accident. So let's look at the SDK. I'm going to go back to my more modern SDK where I can search and do other things. Where is libref? There we go. And of course, this one doesn't allow searching. This is the 4.0 SDK, which does at least have hyperlinks. If I can find the table of contents. And I think we should be here. CD data sync, and it does take a mode argument. So what's happening is this accidentally compiles to the right thing, but the implementation is incorrect. So we can fix that while we're in here. There is several of these that are, the signatures don't necessarily match the SDK docs. I haven't checked them against headers, but we can fix this one while we're here. There's a few other, there's quite a bit more in here that hasn't been completed yet, but it's probably a good idea to go through all of these and just double check what they are. CD ready callback is declared in an interesting way. That doesn't seem like it would be necessary. The argument here, this could be fixed as well. The argument here is going to be a CD CB ready function pointer. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a little bit. There's a bunch of types that are wrong here that that'll need to be fixed. So CD data sync takes an int, and so does this one. And now the question is this still going to work like we expect? This is some output from, I need to re-extract and run again. So hopefully this will compile to the correct thing and we can move on. Yeah, it does. But that does make me think that I should probably go through these and just double check the signatures, because it seems like some of them are not correct any longer. All right. So Entropy Gravity Well says, I'm struggling with access points and a Switch, loads of fun. I just found a Ubiquity or a Unify 24-port Switch at a thrift store. And so I'm actually running through that at the moment, and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's go back to... What should we do? Let's look at what's remaining in N01, and then we can look at library. So there is still quite a bit that is not done. Oh, there's a mouse. I didn't know there was a mouse. So we could also add some breakpoints and try to figure out what some of these other things are as well. Let's start with this 3818E and see what that is. And I believe that I still have a bunch of things that I have not checked in here. I'm going to change my grep, grab the line before, and we could look at the knight in the arc. That might be something fun to do. Might be a little more complicated. Let's do that. I don't know that we'll get that done today, depending on the size. Oh, and I did want to... We'll see how big this is, I guess, and decide what happens after that. But I did want to look at the JP version briefly. We don't have any build infrastructure for JP yet. I think I should be able to get assembly out, though. This one actually doesn't look too bad. Yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. We'll see. Famous last words. So this has something to do with the knight. The knight doesn't do a whole lot of attacks. Just ones that destroy bad players like me. When I was watching Mozilla a couple nights ago, he was saying how he was not a great player, just a medium player, and I am nowhere near his skill level, that is for sure. All right, so we have some negative offsets here, which is means that we're going to be looking at the entity before the argument passed in. It's assumed that this is part of an array and that there's one before it. So we have to do some negative offset calculation, which is always fun. There is some entity extension here that we don't know about yet. Some arrays to figure out as well. I do want to see if anybody has attempted this. Oh, Jake Albert. Thank you, Decomp.me. Jake Albert has figured this one out, so we won't work on this. So let's keep going. What's next? The other one in this split is 801D37. Let's look at that. And nobody has worked on that one. So we can check that out and see what we have. A small one. Surprised that it hasn't been picked up yet. So I don't know what this function is, other than it's may or may not be an entity function. It may be something to help other entities. Not sure. But we will start something new. What is your problems that you're having, Gravity Well? All right. So it looks like there's one issue down here on line 20 related to setting a primitive pointer field. So we need to find what offset 25 is for the primitive pointer, and then maybe this will just work. Some of these variables up here, it looks like, can be cleaned up. I'm going to get rid of this line and see how close this is otherwise, and then we'll go look at what offset 25 is for the entity. No, sorry, primitive. V2, which is a little strange. So the UV coordinates are, yeah, and that I may have the wrong primitive definition. Let me go check that before moving on. So UV is used for coordinates for textures. Yeah, I do. I have the PSP definition. So there's something else going on here as well. Oh, it looks like just the ordering is off. So this one looks like it may get solved relatively quickly. Still not sure though what this might be. The ordering here needs to be fixed. I'm going to assume this is written maybe like this. Let's go back to what was there. So line 10 is reading this as a unsigned when it should be coming in. It's assigned. So we can cast to fix that. A little odd, but interesting. It's not casting's not working either. Okay, we'll have to figure that one out. And then the other one is here. So we're incrementing the step. We don't need that temporary variable. We're incrementing it inline. So we do need the previous version and then do a post increment. And greater or equal to 6 probably is greater than 5. And so we're still missing the load of this. The load of this field is out of order. The other thing that's missing here is, and I guess this is fine, the store byte is happening in the delay slot here, and that's working out both ways. So we're loading. This may be something else. So prim is kind of a default field in the entity union. And I think this is being loaded that M2C chose us for other reasons. So let's look here. So yeah, prim is one option. We could potentially have anything in that first slot. It could even be an entity. So let's assume that I'm going to do some casting first, and then we'll see. So offset 7C is where the extension starts. And so what I want is that the value at ext is treated as an entity pointer. And then we'll treat this as an entity pointer and then look at what offset C is. Offset what? Offset 25. What offset 25 is in the entity. And for an entity, offset 25 is not a thing. Okay, so maybe not that either. Let's see what else we have. So we want something that's at offset 25 and is a byte in size. So let's look at other entity extensions and see what might be there. Oh, this would be a pointer to something else, though. So actually, we just need anything with a byte in at offset 25. So libgpu has something, we can look there. This is going to be, though, basically the same thing. This is going to be a SOTN primitive maps to a libgpu GT4. And so effectively that's going to be the same thing. So what I was trying to do is figure out whether or not loading this in a different way. I'm going to try this one more way here, and maybe this will work. I'm going to create a new primitive pointer, and we'll set that first. So arg0 ext prim, and then we'll set prim v2 equal to 0. And so this effectively is the same thing, and it is treated that way. Let's do this outside of. Yeah, okay. That's not working either. So we need this load word to be something that is uniquely separate. The hard thing about this function is going to be that there's not really any unique values here. The most unique things that we have are some of the offsets. So offset 47, offset 25. So let's grep for those and see if we can find the PSP version. This is still N01. I'm expecting to get quite a few hits, and what I'll do then is just start filtering those down with some of the other constants that are in here. It's N01. Oh, I don't have it. So no, I don't have it there either. I'm not sure why this function was split here. As part of this segment. So hex 74 is going to be used a lot. So what I want to do is use grep-l to list the files. And I don't think I need. So we only have a few, but some of them have a lot of functions in them. Oh, why am I looking at ST0? I want N01. All right, so we only have a few, actually, surprisingly small number. So let's look then. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to filter it again by looking for offset 25 using xargs. And it will have a space at the end of it. And I'll do L again. Or maybe it'll have a new line after it. It's not going to be 25, it's going to be 29 on the... So we have our same functions listed here. So let's list their size and see what there is. So the function that we had here was pretty small. We have two that are likely candidates. Before moving on, though, I'm going to check the dupes report and see if this falls into that category. No, this one doesn't. All right, so we'll start with this first one and see if it looks similar. No, this is much too long. And it is possible. Another thing that we can look at, all these are going to be much too long. It is possible that this is a dead function, and so let's look for that as well. So I'm going to be looking at the N01 code that's been decompiled and the N01 code that hasn't been decompiled, and see if there's references. There are references, so this does look like it is an entity. So we should have this somewhere. We might be able to get away with looking at the entity list and seeing what the offset is in that list, and then finding that list on the PSP side and doing the same. We're pretty far down the list. Unfortunately, none of these are going to have symbol names on the PSP side. So I think we're on line 80 here. So we're approximately entity 76, 77. So we may be able to find some of these other entity symbols on the PSP side, and then find the entity list and go from there. So I'm going to be looking for any entity symbols that are in N01. Make sure I'm recursing. So we do have quite a few that have been matched. That's great. So we were around this entity armor lord section. Do I not have that open anymore? Still doesn't guarantee that it's going to be present, but it might help us find it. Oh. Oh, interesting. It did. Does makeconfig match that closely? I guess it knows what the entity names are, or where the entity list is, and so it may put symbols in to match the PlayStation symbols. That's interesting. Not something that I've seen before, but welcome. So, man, that would make things much easier. I feel like I'm being punked, but we'll see. We'll see. So this should give us enough to hopefully finish this one off. I'm going to create a new PSP scratch. I will have to go through and the primitive should still be the right PSP version. So make sure that I have dummy near the top of that. And that is there. So we'll make this PSP scratch and bring over our current implementation and see how close or far we are. It's correctly telling us that we don't need a reference to a array. So a few things off. Some ordering here. We'll get back to that, and then first I'm going to look at the M2C decomp and then see if there's something else. So I'm not sure why load word isn't moved up, but it's not. And what is our missing instruction? So load word, store byte, load word, jump. Oh, there's a third load word that's missing. So this looks like it's an array of primitives, possibly, and not just a primitive. So I'm going to go with a primitive pointer, and we'll do that by just casting this. And then we need to dereference, and there we go. So whatever this is has either an array of primitives at the beginning of the extension or a pointer to a primitive pointer. We'll have to figure that out. So then we have some typing issues up here. We can bring this back over to the PlayStation side and double check. I think this is going to match mostly. We still have that one type that needs fixing. So we'll do that on the PSP side. Temp S0 is here. So this read is because these are typed incorrectly. So the ands shouldn't be happening. Let's look at hitbox height and offset Y. I thought those were 16 bits already. Okay, hitbox offset Y is. Hitbox height is an unsigned 8. So S0, that's coming in as an unsigned 8. Okay. Oh, I missed this up here. So we should be doing the load byte first. Then all that is correct. Sign extension here. Hitbox. So it looks like, are these in the wrong order? Nope. Possibly this inline. Nope. So we have, do this. No, that's not working either. So there's this additional mask, and that's because the width is a byte. And so whatever we're storing in this half position, we're storing as a 16-bit value, so we need to mask that. And possibly that's what's happening. Up here, we can get rid of this, the mask that's unnecessary up here. Let's look at the decomp again and just check the types. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So the height is getting, temp s0, the height is getting loaded. I didn't see this earlier. And just reassigned back to the same thing, but it's after the entity is initialized, so I guess it's possible that that could change. And then temp s1 is offset y. So temp s2 or the height is being treated in the decomp as a sine 32. And that does work. And then reordering those integers or variables back works as well. What's missing here is this sine extension on line 14. Back to the offset height, and maybe this is a sine 32 as well. There we go. So it's just typing issues. So there still is the issue here of what this entity extension looks like, and if we already have one that would match that case, but we're matching here as well. I'm going to take a few minute break, and when I come back, we'll do some more decomp and try to figure out this entity extension. Be right back. All right. I thought I'd flip this over to my placeholder, but I didn't. That's okay. All right, so we have this the function decompiled, but we don't have a extension yet. So I'm gonna go over and start looking for extensions that maybe exist already that that may be worthwhile. So what I want is a primitive pointer or a primitive array. And so we can look for a primitive followed by any of the variable characters. I guess I want a primitive pointer array. And then we need a array symbol after that, which I don't see. All right, so let's look at all right, so the next thing we need to figure out then is whether or not this is a primitive pointer or if this is a primitive array. And that's going to be less less easy to determine. So we could look at the entity initialization data for this. That may be a good place to start. And so let's look if I still have init open. So these are the update functions, and then these are not going to be helpful. So we want to find, again, so this was on line 80. So this is entity 77. So let's look to see if we can find any other code that's creating entity 77 and maybe learn something from that. I'm going to switch that to hex, which would be 4D in hex. We're playing some 4D chess here. And I'm also going to look to see if data is still not compiled here, or decompiled. So we have a few. So this is around the Armor Lord. That seems likely. So that looks good. So, and we do have entity ID 4D as well. So let's look for that and see if that has been used and where. So the Armor Lord is creating an entity. So this does look like it's something that spawns off the Armor Lord. We can set a breakpoint to find that as well. So EID 4D. I'm not quite sure what this might be. Oh. Here is our temp entity. We're creating it, and then we're setting prim to this prim. And what is this prim? This prim is actually going to be all primitive pointers are they're not really offsets into but maybe this isn't either. Another idea. So this is a primitive. And what what I what I was wanting to show you is how this entity is being created in the Armor Lord code. So EID 40 is part of the Armor Lord's normal state machine. So it's as part of the Fire Wave, it has its own state machine. And when you get a certain collection of things, so the change in X is greater than 0, and the V2 texture is not 0, and you're less than 16, then we're going to create a new entity. And this entity could fail. The alloc entities, we want it in this range of 160 to 192. That could fail, and that's okay. We're going to keep going because this probably is just some visual artifact and not critical, especially if a lot of stuff is going on the screen. But if it doesn't fail, then we'll make this EID 4D, and we'll set prim to the prim that we already have. And that prim is just passed in. So back here, what I want to see is maybe this is not a pointer at all, and maybe this is not even a array, but we're just looking for the next element because that is the first field of prim. And let's see how that looks. So that looks fine. The PSP version is unhappy because I took away that variable, but I think I can get rid of the pointer now. Just grab prim, and then here we can use prim next v2, and that gives us a match as well. So that looks much better, and we don't have to invent a new entity extension to get that to work. I like it. So 3700 is a function we need to find. I have that open here. So we'll paste that in and build. And we should get a match. I've been meaning to, if you notice when building, even when, let me do that in parallel, go a little faster. This happens when I split a new PSP thing, it's gonna leave some garbage here that I need to get rid of. I'm pretty sure 80 is not part of this. Yeah, so we get rid of that one. So every time, oh, it didn't work. Oh, well. Let's include an 01. And there. Oh, no, that worked. Whenever you build, regardless of what you're doing, in this case, I'm just checking because everything is built. We run this target to re-download GCC. And one, it's unnecessary. We're taking up a meg download every time you build, which is silly, but it doesn't change. So if we have it, we should just use the one we have or use an e-tag. And so I'm going to have to see if I can clean that up later. All right, so we have one more NO1 function done. Oh, Knight and Laura. So that other one was something that was already done, so we're not going to look at that. I'm going to look at where this split is. This is US STN01, because I think 5348C. These functions may be more related to the Armor Lord than not. I will make a comment on this one. What was that? All right, so another one done. Let's look at the library. And first I'll look at the splits. There really is quite a bit that needs to be done, probably between stage name and skeleton, to split these into known common functions. And let me look over here. Okay, so this is somewhat interesting. In N01, there's nothing between, at least no RO data between stage name and skeleton. So we do have possibly something unique in 4C054. So let's start there. After skeleton, it does look like there is some unique stage stuff, and there may be other things as well. Long library is a pretty big area. So like things like the librarian and other things like that, would be fun to find, but whether they're earlier or later in that stage depends on, I guess, what the developers thought and when they knew that these different elements were going to be there. So I'm going to look at this unknown 4C05 first and see if there's any comments there. There aren't. I'm going to look at duplicates and see if that shows up in duplicates or not, and that'll tell us if any of this is common. So unknown C405 should show up here. So stone rose, it looks like exists here. So that is at CED0. Okay, so those are the only two known. And then the other function, or the other file, was this 4F918. And Fleaman. Go through and annotate that. So it's O2DO and somewhere O2DO. So if you're interested in decompiling and haven't done it before, the duplicates report is kind of a nice way to find functions that already exist. And if you find any of these categories that where many or all are false, it can be a pretty straightforward way to get first decomp done. This is missed door. So Fleaman and missed door. So we have quite a few that are left that aren't matching. And so let's go to Duck Station and we'll play the game and try to figure out what these are. And since we are in... Oh, I don't have my fairy anymore. At one point I had a... It's in the assets. I had a fairy familiar floating avatar. When we were doing the fairy decomp stuff. I don't know where this fairy went. Oh, looks like I must have deleted it. Okay, so I won't put the fairy up, but I will do. I will start Duck Station, and so we're gonna go through, and I'm gonna grab the memory addresses of these different functions that we have, and clears them all, I guess. And then we'll start adding these. So missed door is not one that we need. The next one down. There's 3 Fleaman functions then. I'm not sure if we've come across, I almost want to say ectoplasm has been found elsewhere, but I can't think of where. And then I will open the other file as well. So all of this, there's actually been a significant number of new contributors, which is awesome. A lot of times what happens though is I'll do some of this work on the stream and then not come back to it right away. And when I do finally come back to it to submit a PR, somebody else has come in and done it already. So I'm going to try to be quick, snappy. And we'll see which of these we can find. A few more. So that's everything before the stone rose in that segment. And now this is after the stone rose. I mentioned last week that I was bummed to hear about David Lynch dying, and I've just been thinking so much about him in the last week, and just all the weird and interesting things that that he was able to do and bring us. And I really thought that I had an Eraserhead poster, and so I was going to put it up behind me and have that up there for a while. And if I have it, I have no idea where it is. I keep all my posters like just stacked in the frame so that I can switch them out really quickly. And I have 3 poster frames in various places, and none of them had eraser head in them. Let's see if this is the right controller. DuckStation tells me that I have like 1 million controllers plugged in. Let's try SDL7. No. Oh, I'm dumb. I have it paused. I have the emulator paused, so nothing is going to work. Alucard's sleeping. I do want to find that as well. There we go. All right, so we'll go up to the long library and see if we hit any of these breakpoints. Unfortunately, we might hit some of them along the way just because those same addresses of memory are getting executed, and there's not really anything that can be done about that except for disabling the breakpoints. I think Mr. MIDI might have pointed out last week, or yeah, let me disable these before we get into the long library. Maybe somebody else, that I was hitting a breakpoint in the doppelganger fight that may not have had anything to do with the doppelganger fight. This is the library, or is this the warp room? We will find out. It is the library. Okay, so I'm going to pause and re-enable all these breakpoints. So we're just going to go through and see where if we hit any along the way. And we hit one already. So 304 is hit right away. I'm going to try to back out of the room. And I need to jump. Easier said than done. There we go. So I'll leave the room. 304 is... Sorry. We're hitting 4 and 5. So this is 5, 4, and 6BO, or what are getting hit. So this could be the text showing up, and I don't think we'll see that again when we come back. And so we'll have a pretty good idea that that's what it is if we don't hit the breakpoint again. 054 is hit again. So probably not the text. And 6BO is being hit again as well. I'm just going to make some notes about those, that they're triggered when entering. And then disable those. And make our way through. The other get owned by skeleton guy. So we hit another one. So this is 7BC is getting triggered during the skeleton death. So it's likely that this fencing skeleton is... These are the entities related to him. Or her. You know, who knows? No head, no... Maybe wearing a purple dress, who knows? So it could be that explosion. Or the stars. My guess is it's the explosion. So we'll get rid of that one as well. Maybe the head, that would be funny if it was the... So there's a few things to do here. Some things we can't do yet. Okay, so we're hitting another one coming into this first room. I think that this is the hall under like the walkway to the librarian, and it's going to take us to an empty room, I think. If I remember correctly, so this is 304. We'll keep going and see. So this is in the other file. So this is 3 or 4. I'm going to disable that one and keep going. Okay, so this happens underneath. It's the first function underneath the Fleaman functions. So this may be related to Fleaman as well. Not the hallway that I thought it was going to be. I don't know why. I'm just going to get through here before I die. This is the hall that I was thinking of. More Fleaman. No! There we go. And let me see if I have a save state. Let's see. I'm gonna try this one. I think this one is after the doppelganger fight. Nope. Let's try the other one. This one is after the doppelganger fight. Activated yet? Nope, elevator's not activated. These save states were related to when I was trying to find the elevator activated text. So we should be able to get to Long Library this way. I do think I have possibly a better weapon. Oh, Jewel Knuckle's not terrible. I am going to go up this time. Oh, wait a break. Why is this taking so long to load? Looks like another breakpoint is hit. This one is 318. So let's see what we see. So we're slowly. So we're going between 9EC and 318. 9EC and 318 are both back near the Fleaman. I'm going to disable those. And there is an ectoplasm, as expected. And okay, so we have a new one, B6C. And B6C is far enough away that no, it's further down. So my guess is that the ectoplasm has the two different types have slightly different functions associated with them, because this one has a very different rendering than the other one does. And my guess is that there's some type of effect that gets called for this one and not the other. B6C, or it's possible that it's just completely a different entity altogether. Oops, I did the wrong one. B6C. Oh, and now I'm cursed. Run. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. But that's fine. So we have the flowers aren't coming out because so books isn't in this list. That's interesting because these are unique to the long library. So it's possible that somebody has decompiled these already. I would be interested in that. We have the fairy scroll, die books. It's German for the books. Actually, it'd be D books. Das Book? Das Book? Sounds better than D. Yeah, just a few days ago, we started pulling the long library. Good to have you, Mozilla. And just trying to find these last few. I'm not even going to attempt the kick. I did that. I was playing through with my son one day, trying to learn the different techniques. I sat there for at least half an hour trying to get the timing right on the kick. All right, so we hit another one. This is EDC. EDC is also around the ectoplasm. I thought that I had gotten rid of that. Is there another ectoplasm over here? Maybe not. Maybe that was one that I accidentally... Yeah, that must be one that I accidentally disabled. So let's get rid of that breakpoint and continue. I'm not sure what else is over here, though. Interesting, there was a... okay, we just hit another one. COC. EDC and COC in here. But I'm not sure what those might have been. Yeah, so this is, yeah, after ectoplasm, but what else is potentially above this area? Something that would be in like the buffer space where an entity would be created. Actually, it is possible that it is related to the books. Maybe the animation that I hadn't triggered earlier. Okay, so Lesser Demon possibly related. If so, I don't have the volume turned up loud enough to know, but yeah, those books are gone now, and we're still hitting that. Oh, I almost did it. Oh, maybe the plant. Maybe it's Stone Rose related. No, it's too far from that, I think. I don't know. And oh, none of these are related to the librarian.
Oh, it's you, Master.
All right, I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna see if the librarian stuff has been found. Nobody has called anything librarian yet. Yeah, maybe I will do Solabat and get up there. So I'm a little surprised though that none of these were the librarian. Oh, the librarian could be in first C file. That's not a common name that is used. And so I wasn't looking at that for unknown stuff. So let's look there, and maybe that counts as a cutscene or something else, but let's look at the first C file and see if there is a lot. Oh, a lot. So there is cutscene related stuff. All the normal, yeah, cutscene stuff. Okay, so this is likely where it is, and probably like the menus and other things like that for the librarian are here as well. Actually, Mozilla being in chat, he might know some details about where maybe where the data is, and not necessarily where the code is for that interface. I can do a little more searching in here though. There's so much in here that needs to be split out. But that's probably where the librarian is. Yeah, that's how things are for me as well. So we have ectoplasm, and that hasn't been decompiled yet. So let's start there. And we can see, what time is it? Oh, it's too late. My time is up. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll look at the ectoplasm, and maybe I'll do a little more hunting for librarian related things. It'd be it looks like there is something related to Fleaman that may be unique to the library that was getting called when Fleaman was on the screen, but not other places where we've extracted Fleaman. We'll double check that quickly. Either that or Dupes didn't find it. So we want we don't have Fleaman? Oh, we had Fleaman. Oh, Fleaman isn't extracted into common stuff yet because this is only the second time we've seen Fleaman. Okay, so a few symbols that can probably be named there. And it's possible that they're... no. I was going to say there might be other functions that are Fleaman related that didn't get pulled out into this segment. But that's what we can do tomorrow. So look forward to more library stuff tomorrow. And I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, there is a... I was working on CD BIOS stuff, specifically data sync. if you're interested or you are a glutton for punishment and want to look at cd_datasync in decomp.me and figure out why my arguments aren't producing the code that I want, feel free and come to chat tomorrow, or find me on Discord at Sulaco on Discord. But that's all we're going to do for decompiling today. If you want to know more about the Symphony of the Night decompilation project, go to soten.z.dev and you can see what we're working on. Outer Wall just started at the beginning of December, almost done, so taking us about a month per overlay. We're probably going to see the same thing with Long Library as those things get mapped. Really, it's just the unique parts then that require the additional time. All right, and thank you, Mozilla. I will write those down. So Mozilla's giving me offsets for Solabat as well as the inventory list. And we can pull that up as well, because that does look like an offset into this data. We could extract that data. That actually might be fun to look at quickly. Let's look at that. So 8018 prefixes, those are all stage overlay related, so we know this data is coming from the stage data. So we should see this, and there it is. Whether or not Splat has output anything sensible that we can read is another thing altogether. And what the format of this is something we'll have to work on. So my guess is that the first byte is the count. Let's look at that screen. Mozilla probably knows this structure. Versus category. Okay, I'm going to go back to Station,
What do you need?
and we'll get this list.
I need your help.
Young master, I cannot aid one who opposes the master.
You won't go unrewarded.
And I don't have.
Really? In that case, just tell me
Can't
what
skip
you
the cutscene.
need.
I'm interested in
All
this.
right. So let's find something that something. Does anything have a quantity more than one? No. Okay, so first byte's category, second 2 bytes are identifier. And the last 4 bytes are a price. 4 bytes for price? Got it. So our struct is size 8, and we that might be fun to do as well. Start breaking this up into structs. So let's look at that tomorrow. That sounds like something to do. Anyway, that's all we have time for today on Made of Void. Oh, that's what we can do. Thank you, Mozilla. Thank you for giving me this offset. Let's look at who references this data. And that will tell us what function drives the shop. And there we go. It is in first C file, like I thought. It is 801B29C4. and we have castle flags. We have all kinds of good stuff in this menu. It's a relatively short function, so that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll look at the shop menu and other things around it. That sounds fun. Thank you again, Mozilla. I appreciate it. If you want to know more about decompiling, now I'll do my end spiel. Soten.z.dev. Join us in Discord. Join us. See what we're doing on GitHub. Mozilla spends probably significantly more time than definitely significantly more time than I do in the Long Library Discord as well, where people are hacking on Symphony Night in ways that are nightmare fuel, personally. A lot more about the game, tournaments, and speedrunning, and all kinds of other things. Randomizer in the Long Library. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks everybody for joining, and I will be back tomorrow with more Soten Decomp. Adios.